Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. In this podcast episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Gino Wickman, who you may have heard of from the book Traction or Entrepreneurial Operating System. And in this interview, we talk about the principles in his new book called Shine. And this is going to help you from everything from leadership to personal development, but ultimately becoming the truest form of yourself and the most effective form of yourself, and really diving into that. Because ultimately, as business owners, practice owners, doctors, there's a lot on our plate, and we're not doing the things that are going to prevent us from burning out, or we might be ineffectual in our leadership. And when you really dive into the 10 principles that we're going to talk about in this interview, it's going to help you be the best version of yourself, for you, for your family, and for the businesses that you run, and for your patients. So I'm excited to bring you an interview here with Gino Wickman, and we're going to talk about the 10 principles and some other things as well that he outlines in his book called Shine. All right, welcome to the show. I got Gino Wickman with us today, and excited to dive into something that you may not be expecting if you're very familiar with the book Traction and EOS, but we're going to dive into a very deep topic today, and that is from the book Shine. But Gino, before we really get deep into it, tell us how you bridge the gap from, the business world and really dive into that over the last few decades here into now Shine, and talk a little bit about that book, and let's dive into it.
Sounds great. Well, let me start by saying, Kevin, I'm thrilled to be here, and I hope that we will make a huge impact on your audience today. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And on your question, what I'll do is I'll just start by creating a context, which tends to help everybody understand the big picture. Because first and foremost, I am a guy who is obsessed about helping entrepreneurs. Okay. And so now let's take that word and let's talk about your audience of chiropractors who are doctors, but they are business owners. And so what I hope to start right out of the chute is to shift their mindset that in this conversation, they are not doctors, they are business owners, i.e. entrepreneurs. And so if they started that darn practice or inherit it from someone else and they're growing it to the next level, they are entrepreneurs. And so my life is entrepreneurs, and I have created 5 pieces of content in the world to serve and help entrepreneurs get everything they want out of their business and lives. And so very quickly, those 5 pieces of content are Entrepreneurial Leap for a person that thinks they might be an entrepreneur, but aren't that yet. They have not taken their leap, or they're an early stage entrepreneur. Then there's Rocket Fuel for when that visionary entrepreneur needs to find their integrator counterpart to take the business to the next level. Then there's Traction and EOS when they're ready to run their business like a Swiss watch. Then there's EOS Life for when they're ready to live their ideal life. And then there's Shine, which is what we're going to talk about today. And that's the opportunity to really take it to the next level, implement 10 disciplines in their life to really maximize their energy, impact, and inner peace. And then 3 discoveries for really going deep and doing some inner work to find incredible inner peace. And so the reason I start there, and I know that's a mouthful and a lot to follow, if you go to ginowickman.com, it's all there. Don't feel like you have to absorb all of this, but the point is I meet an entrepreneur wherever they are on their journey. And what we're going to talk about today is advanced stuff, because if you think of those 5 pieces of content, that's really the entrepreneurial climb. And what happens for most entrepreneurs is they get to the top of the mountain, they achieve everything they thought they wanted to accomplish, and they thought that they would find that inner peace and satisfaction, but a lot of them are left feeling empty. And so we're going to touch on that, and then we'll touch on the 10 disciplines as well. So what led me to that is I am my content. In other words, I teach what I needed the most. And so when I sold EOS Worldwide, I was in that same place where I got to the top of the mountain, accomplished every entrepreneurial goal I had for myself, and found myself feeling a bit empty. And so did some inner work and inner soul searching. And so there's kind of the jumping off point for what got me here and helping all these entrepreneurs. And then I watched it in so many that I was just kind of pinged to create this content with my co-author, Rob Dubay. And here we are on this podcast talking about it today.
Yeah, and I really wanted to dive into it because I know that being an entrepreneur is hard no matter what industry you're in. I feel like being a healthcare entrepreneur or a doctor that owns a business, it has a whole other level, because when you're caring for people, that takes a lot out of you. And if you've got some stuff you got to work through, it can impact that. And then you got to put on a different hat and obviously be an entrepreneur and business owner, and it can be a big struggle for folks. And I do see a lot that end up doing well, right? They do well on all things, right? They all levels of quote unquote success. They have the things and they've made the income and kids are doing well, all that, and they're just not satisfied. And I get them calling me. I'm 45 years old, so I'm like right in that sweet spot of midlife crisis time, right? And I get a lot of docs that reach out to me. It's like, we're revenue is great, all these are great, but I'm just not feeling that. And I'm not an expert in this type of stuff, and I always like to extract out that what I can for people that kind of been to that journey like you have. And so I appreciate you with this book, because I read it when it came out and it really opened my eyes for some of it. So I want to dive in to start out with is we're gonna go deep here. And so the three discoveries to really free your true self. Can you start with number one and work our way through with that?
Absolutely. And so again, I'm always a fanatic about creating context, so the audience
Mhm.
is following us. And so that first big piece of context was the five pieces of content. And so now we're going to piece of content number five, shine. And I want to create kind of a mini context around shine, because what we're going to do is we're going to go into the three discoveries to free your true self right now. But what I want to prepare your audience is the second part of the book are the 10 disciplines to maximize your energy, impact, and inner peace. And what's important to know is when those 10 disciplines are embedded in your life, it creates space and time for you to really dig into these three discoveries. But I always like starting with the three discoveries so that they understand the big picture and the context and what's possible. And so I also try to help clear up any confusion. There's so much terminology, it's like I'm trying to make it make sense as fast as possible for your audience. And so the three discoveries, I'll start high level what they are, and then we'll do that drill down you asked for with discovery number one. But again, the three discoveries to free your true self. And so discovery number one is the discovery that I am driven, and understanding you're driven. We'll come back to that in just a second.
Yeah.
Discovery two is understanding that all decisions are made out of love or I'm sorry, love or fear. All decisions stem from love or fear. And then the third discovery is that it is possible to be driven and have peace. And so I always love to give the high level just so you can kind of see the journey that happened. But starting with driven, and I go back to that point I made a minute ago, the chiropractors out there listening, these doctors, you are business owners. In my mind, first and foremost, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, and you are typically driven. And so we driven entrepreneurs, business owners out there, it's a blessing and a curse. And
Mhm.
I call it a discovery because the idea is to really know yourself and realize, wow, I am a driven person. And the blessing and the curse is that the blessing side is we create more than most. We are superhuman in terms of our energy and the way that we create things. We are about 5% of the planet, so it's very unique and rare, upwards of 10%, different studies, but for a visionary driven entrepreneur, there's only 4% of us on the planet. And so what's important to understand is you are an alien.
Hmm.
96% of the planet is not like you. And so it's realizing that. The curse side is we do a lot of damage. We do a lot of damage to ourselves, our bodies, and the relationships in our lives because we just leave a black trail behind us as we build what we're building. And so it's just a matter of understanding that. And that driven DNA that we have, it's been with us our whole lives. It gets us in trouble and we make mistakes and we do things and it causes trauma. And then all of a sudden we've created pain in our lives. And we're trying to mask this pain through addictions and trying to just hide from the world what's really going on the inside. And so again, discovery number one is just realizing I am driven. It's a blessing and a curse, and understanding all the blessings and all the curse so that now I know what I am and we can move to that second discovery.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think sometimes I'd love your thoughts on this. A little bit of a sidebar on it, but there's a low percentage that are entrepreneurs, and I think as a chiropractor, a lot of them become practice owners, and maybe they aren't naturally in the entrepreneurial, spirit of things, but they're kind of forced into that, and that becomes a whole other layer for them. They are driven, but maybe haven't had the tool set to do it. But that's where some of your other content comes into play to help with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because that's why I give the big picture context. Because if we're sitting here talking to entrepreneurs about entrepreneurs and you're an entrepreneur, it's hard not to kind of go back to some of that content. And so, my Entrepreneurial Leap content, that's a book that I wrote called Entrepreneurial Leap. There's also a website, e-leap.com, where there's an assessment, and you take this assessment. And so, a true driven entrepreneur has 6 essential traits: visionary, passionate, problem solver, risk taker, responsible, and problem solver. I think I left out there, but the point is that is the DNA of an entrepreneur. And that assessment, if you simply take that assessment, you're going to get a score. And if you score 90 or higher, odds are really good that you're an entrepreneur. And if you don't, it's a great awareness tool to really know thyself. And if being an entrepreneur is right for you, because not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur. So, yeah, I appreciate you calling on that content to help someone out there that if they're really struggling building their practice, they may not be an entrepreneur, i.e., driven entrepreneur, visionary business owner, etc.
Love it. And then what are some of the pitfalls you see of these driven folks where they really are a hard charger? What are some of the things you see, unfortunately, in this crowd?
Well, again, it's that black trail that I talk about. They just
Yeah.
tend to do damage to both themselves and the relationships in their lives. And so the way we do it to ourselves is we are just so amped up. Like
Mhm.
I have a heart issue, I have a blocked valve. Fortunately, it's going to be manageable. I don't need a stent, anything like that. But my doctor's convinced it happened to me in my 20s when it was so intense in my 20s. And so we do damage to our bodies. We create disease in our bodies with this intensity where we just go, go, go. And then again, with relationships, there are a lot of divorce driven entrepreneurs. There are a lot of friendships that have been destroyed, employees that we burn through and burn out. So we do a lot of damage with relationships. And so, again, by zooming out and understanding the awareness of that, you're able to then really address your driven nature and manage it well and then maximize it.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot from chiropractors where they do have a lot of turnover because typically an intimate setting of employees, right? Three, four, five, six, 10 employees. It's not 200. And so you're kind of a close knit group, but they have this consistent turnover. And to your point, that could be part of the problem there
Yeah,
as
and
well.
also, this is why I always like to give a glimpse of what's coming in our conversation, because remember, these are discoveries we're talking about. And so if you're out there going, "What? Wait, how do I solve this?" Slow down. Right now, we're just talking about you discovering this because we need you to discover it first. And so remember, discovery 3 that's coming is that it is possible to be driven and have inner peace. So it's coming. And then the 10 disciplines are the tools that you embed in your life to help you be driven, have that inner peace, and maximize your life as a driven entrepreneur.
I love it. And then moving on to number two, decisions are made out of love or fear. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to. This
That's
is
a
my
big one.
favorite one of all of it. This is probably my favorite part of all the content. And I'm going to let you be the gauge of how deep we go here because we could go 8 hours into this content. Okay. So I'm going to give you like the really high level version of this. And then let's go wherever you want to go. You know your audience better than I do, but it just starts. Again, it's a discovery with you out there realizing that all decisions are made out of love or fear. And so every decision you make, but also thoughts, emotions, feelings, and decisions, but let's call those decisions. Every decision you make, when you make it, it stemmed from love or fear. Now let's take those two words, love, fear. If we take it a level deeper, love, fear, love is coming from your true self. Okay. And so we use the term true self in this book, but you can call that whatever you want. You can call that soul. you call that spirit, you call that heart, but it's coming from your body, your soul, your spirit, i.e., true self. So that's love. Fear is coming from your ego, your head. And so if you understand that context and you now create awareness in your life as you go forward, you're going to start to see clearly whether the decision was made from love or fear, true self or ego, and you will start to discover how hijacked you really are by your ego. And what we will find, especially as driven entrepreneurs, is our ego is in control and has our true self trapped in a prison. And most of our decisions in life have been ego based, fear based, and we've built this structure in our lives, this protective layer to protect us from ever feeling the pain that we felt in the past. And so we put on the suit of armor, we go forward, and it's just a series of fear based decisions. Now, all that said, in that state, you will build an empire. You know, if we go back to the first four pieces of content I created, that's going to help you build an empire in your outer world. I'm just now trying to help you see this amazing discovery so that you can build it, enjoy it with having inner peace. Because in the state that I described with your ego having you hijacked and you trapped behind that suit of armor, it is not a peaceful place in there. The tectonic plates are shifting. So there's the jumping off point in terms of discovery number two.
Yeah, you know, and in my personal, I should say professional development in life, I've been practicing for 20 years now. And I heard a person say on a podcast once, and I forget who it was, but he's like, the first half of your life, you're kind of building that vessel. And in the second half of that life, you're filling that vessel. And you're 26 years old when I graduate from school, and then you work for someone, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get out of that. And I got into a partnership and then opened my own practice. But a lot of the decisions I made at that stage were, for me, fear based. I had a lot of fear around, am I going to be successful? Is this going to work out? Am I good at what I do? But it did motivate me and definitely had a lot of drive. And I look back now at 45, where I've kind of built the vessel now, and now I'm into that stage where I'm trying to fill it. And I look back on my younger self, and it's kind of a catch 22. It's like I wouldn't want to change too many things, but I'd left a black trail for sure. And there's no doubt about it. And so it's not wanting to regret things, but it was something that I was very fear based. And now I'm starting to recognize that. And I think I'm developing some of the strategies like your 10 disciplines here to let's change that. Let's get out of that ego and let's try to do that. And then one other thing I want to kind of tie this to our audiences, when you're based out of fear too much, and maybe it's professional life, personal life, you're going into that treatment room, and you are not able to be the best version of yourself for that patient. And one of the things we talk about a little bit is that present time consciousness with that patient and focusing on them. And that's what you have to do as a doctor. That's what's so hard, is that we have to go into a room, and we might have to do that 30 times in a day and be there for that person. And out of love, you really want that to be, but we're going in there out of fear of, like, my payroll is struggling. I've got this going on. I'm burned out. I'm thinking about, um, you know, the next hire, someone just left the practice. And so we deal with that a lot. And that one for me, when I read your book, really resonated. And I was able to reflect back on the level of fear that was driving me. But it definitely helped me build something.
And on that, and again, you rein me in if we're going too deep and you've got to
Yes.
manage a clock here. But I want to first of all make it clear everything we're talking about is in the book Shine, and I
Yes.
go really deep. My co-author and I, Rob Dubay, go into this really deep. So the answers are all there, but I want to take you all the way to the end game on this one, just so everybody understands the hope here, because the idea is once you realize this dynamic, love, fear, true self, ego, the prison that your ego has you trapped in, the protective layer you created, you can shed all of that. That's what it's all about, is shedding all of that. And I take you through a process where at the end of that process, through awareness, as you said, consciousness, just simply being aware, you'll start to make a shift from fear-based decisions to love-based decisions, because you'll start to go to the root of where the fear is coming from. And the fear is a protective layer from some pain from the past that it's important to address if you want to shed all this and experience peace. But two things. Number one, if this is scary, just keep working on your outer world. Just keep implementing this content to help you build a great company. Your soul will ping you at the right time. And what we know is somewhere on your journey at the top of that mountain, you'll confront this stuff. Your soul won't let you not. But the power of this is we're trying to help driven entrepreneurs start this as early as possible in the process. Because, I know I couldn't go back in time, like you said, at 27 and maybe do this work, but it's becoming so much more, mainstream, and the awareness is out there that I think we're going to start seeing more and more 20, 22, 25-year-olds starting businesses that are confronting this stuff in the early stage so that they experience peace on that whole journey of climbing the mountain. Unlike what you and I had to do, is experience a whole lot of pain for 20 years and then get pinged that it's time. But here's the worst case scenario. You start your business, build your business, implement the first 4 pieces of content, build an empire, achieve all those goals, and you're sitting there at 50 years old or 60 years old, then confront it. Then at least when you leave this planet somewhere between age 80 and 120, at least you will have achieved, both being driven and have peace. But the sooner you can start, the better. And so I urge you to start today.
Yeah, no, I love that. And what age, if you had to say that you really started to confront it for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. Something just happened to me in the last 2 weeks where I found the age. So what I would always say is, that I got pinged right around age 30. And so I've been dabbling with this, dancing with this since age 30. I'm 57. So for the last 27 years, and there's no question, I've been using the term shedding layers for decades now, that I've been shedding layers during that time, putting a little bit of a dent in this. But for me, it was age 52 after I sold EOS Worldwide, 2 years after the sale, sitting in my living room, celebrating my success. And then the universe hit me over the head with a sledgehammer and said, no, it's time to wake up. So it was the last 3 to 4 years was a massive shedding that went on. So it started for me at 30. But what I found is a couple of weeks ago, a poem I wrote, I literally read this on one of our podcast episodes. I wrote it at 29 years old. It was called The Facade, and it was all about shedding the facade. So I think that it was right around 29 when I really started to realize there was more going on than just this outer world stuff. There's some inner world stuff that I need to address. And the suit of armor, the Teflon shield that I'd created was so thick and strong that it's time to start shedding that damn thing, because I was not the real me.
Love it. Love it. Let's take a break from today's episode and announce our first sponsor. This is going to be Propel Marketing and Design. I've known Darcy Sullivan for years. We've worked hand in hand on my websites. I don't trust anybody else to do the search engine optimization. She does a great job. There's so much to it. A lot of the lingo and the words are beyond my comprehension, but it's just amazing work that she does. And if you're really going to get results with Google, you have to make sure your website is SEO optimized. And I really don't want you doing it yourself as a chiropractor. So you just have to have this type of stuff done. And if you're looking to get more organic online traffic that pulls in new patients, Propel Marketing and Design is currently offering chiropractors who listen to this podcast a free SEO website review. The free review will help you uncover methods that will improve your website and boost your search engine visibility. Head over to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor and schedule your free SEO website review. You won't regret it. She gets great results. Your website needs this. Your search results need this. Head on over there to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor to get your free SEO website review. And then that takes us to the third one, which I really resonate in. What is that third one?
Yeah. And so the third one is that it is possible to be driven and have peace. And so now you follow this bouncing ball, these 3 discoveries. The first one is the discovery that you're driven and the blessing and the curse. And in that discovery, you thump your chest certainly on all the blessings, but you beat the shit out of yourself with all the curses, right? So you're like, it's almost like it's kind of a bummer to realize all your addictions. Okay. And so there are addictions, and those addictions are there to soothe and numb us from feeling the pain. And so that's kind of a bummer. Then you get to the second discovery and you realize, wow, there is a process for me to shed, for me to go to the root of what it is I'm trying to numb. It's that thing that happened at age 7 for you, and then maybe something happened at 12 and God knows what else, but you start to confront and shed all that stuff, and you can shed it. We give you 30 ways to shed it in the book Shine. Now, all of a sudden, but again, that's still pretty scary. So then I take you to the possibility and the discovery, which I hope you will discover sooner than later, is that it is possible to have this incredible drive that is a blessing and a curse, but experience peace. So I always put my hands under my chin and I talk about the tectonic plate shifting. It is possible to feel incredible inner peace and not that uneasiness and those tectonic plates shifting. And so it is possible. And so in that discovery, and certainly it's the 10 disciplines, as we keep alluding to, that are going to help you get there and help you maximize this inner peace. But I want to say a couple of things to this, because what also happens for us driven entrepreneurs is the thought of peace terrifies us, or at least it terrified me, because what I thought was going to happen is if I ever found inner peace, it would zap me of my drive. It would zap me of my superpower. I literally thought I would lose everything. And the first time I got pinged with inner peace was when my daughter was born. I was about 25 years old. And the moment she was born, I felt the most incredible peace, love. I mean, it was indescribable what I felt. And it lasted about an hour. And then I stuffed it back down because it scared the living shit out of me. It felt wimpy. It felt weak. I literally thought I was going to lose everything. And I just put the Teflon, I put that suit of armor right back on. And then 2-3 years later, my son was born. I felt that again briefly for 30 to 60 minutes. I stuffed it back down. And so with that, it is possible. So first of all, there's a fear that comes with that for us driven entrepreneurs. But the realization that happens when you do this work is the realization that, holy cow, I can be driven, I can have that peace. And not only is my drive going to be just as powerful, it's going to be more powerful, because what happens is your whole life shifts to an inside out approach to the world, no longer an outside in approach to the world. And the outside in approach is, again, when your ego's running the show and you're weighing every decision based on competition, comparison, judgment. You're worrying about what everybody else is going to think about this decision. All of a sudden, inside out says, all I care about is what my true self, what my soul wants, and you will make better decisions from the inside out than the outside in. And that level of energy is immeasurable. And then that maximizes your drive. And it literally, I don't know the number, but it 10Xs it, 100X. I don't know what the number is, but I'm experiencing it. So I can speak from experience and can tell you it's a lot more than what it was.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I remember reading that part of it, because what I found for myself when I reflected upon it was that when I would hit certain periods of inner peace, I would almost feel like, okay, I'm being too lazy or I'm not working hard enough. And then I would cover it up by layering on more drive to it.
Yeah.
To like you said, so I almost looked at it, it was like, oh, I can't be at peace here. Like there's got to be something I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And that was a big awakening for me for sure.
Huge, huge. And I will say this, so in no way am I saying I've got it all figured out and I'm enlightened. And I think about like the scale of 0 to 100%, where there's no way to measure this, but let's pretend, 100% is where your true self is fully free. In other words, your soul is free. Your ego has dissolved. If that's 100%, I don't know if I'm at 1% or 100%. I'm on this journey with everybody else. And I love sharing the journey and being on this journey with people. So I don't know if I'm at, 10%, 90%, 50. I fear that I'm at about 1%, but I will tell you, wherever I am, it feels a hell of a lot better than it did 4 years ago. And so it really is a journey because it's this process of, again, that awareness was that love based or fear based, realizing it was fear based, chasing down what the root of the fear was, feeling a sensation in your body that does not feel so good. And pain comes up from the past, releasing whatever that was. And then all of a sudden you reach another level of freedom because that's another layer that got shed. Your ego has dissolved a little bit more. Your true self is more online and leading. And so anyway, so there's the process. So where I am, I have no idea. I'm not,
Yeah.
saying I'm enlightened, and we're all just, on this journey together.
But it's like a golf game, right? It's like, I might not be able to get to a single digit handicap, but if I can go from a 15 to a 12, I feel good about that. And that's progression. Would you say that what you found with this work and with working with folks is that once they see progress, that really helps give them some momentum and they feel better and more at peace in general? Even if they go from 10% to 20%, it's not necessarily about getting to 100% tomorrow, but just seeing the progression, they're doing a lot better.
Absolutely. And I would say two things to that. I don't know that the golf analogy is the perfect analogy because what's different about this is you can become a scratch golfer. So what I would suggest is that your true self, your soul wants to be free, can be free. You're the only one stopping it. In other words, you came into this planet, you were born, you were 100% pure and free. I mean, you were your innate self. And then the world got a hold of you. And unfortunately, you built all those layers. So the beauty is you can get to 100%. It's
Yeah.
just not easy. Number two is, yes, it's all about progress and it's taking these steps. And then we describe all the steps, in Shine for you, but it's realizing where the fear is coming from, feeling that pain, releasing what it was. Sometimes you're forgiving someone, sometimes you're forgiving yourself, whatever, however you release and let it go. And then, yes, feeling that peace and that sensation. And it's a process of just shedding all that stuff. And the realizing where the fear-based decision came from and chasing down that pain, that part, there's nothing enjoyable about that.
Yeah.
Having that experience, shedding it, and that elation that comes after, there then is the feeling of wow, progress. Because it's all about expanding. And what happens is we expand, we contract, we expand, we contract, but you're always expanding. It's like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And it's understanding and feeling the pain and the pleasure and understanding we have to feel the dark to experience the light. And so all of a sudden you realize it's just this kind of flow that you're in, but it just keeps getting better and better and better and better. There's always going to be challenges in life. There's always going to be things to face, but you just get better at dealing with them as you shed that stuff from the past that's holding you back.
Yeah, and that's where I want to, came across this quote, and I heard it on a podcast, and the person that said it didn't know who came up with it, so I can't attribute it, but it just seemed very apropos to knowing that I was, going to have this interview with you. But quote, because life is suffering, you need to pursue meaning that justifies that level of suffering. And I don't think people have to suffer in a sense, but what it's saying is that like life is hard. Like you're going to lose family members. You're going to have bad days. There's going to be things that happen to your kids that you don't want. And you got to be able to navigate that. And I think having that meaning, and maybe when some of your meaning is just covered up with a bunch of the crud. And
Mhm.
once you get down to it and really start to understand yourself and your true self, you're able to maybe manage those obstacles a little bit better. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, and I would say this. First, the funny thought that's coming to me is if you would have told me 5 years ago, I'd be having this conversation on a podcast, Mr. Business guy, hard charging, the suit of armor, there would have been a fist fight. Okay. So it's so funny that it's amazing that we're having this conversation and now I'm having it, daily. So hallelujah to that, whatever that means. Number two is yes. And I would say what you said, I'd say it a different way, but it's the exact same thing because there's so many different ways to say this. And words can't describe this once you know it, truly in your true self, once you know it. But it's like life happens. And the best way I heard that is a saying that says, see life as it is. Okay. And it's like the matrix analogy. What happens for most of us is none of us see life as what it really is. We made up a story. We have ourselves so fooled and we're trying to control every aspect of life. And we really think we have control of life and you don't. And so,
Mhm.
yes, people come, people go, people die, people are born, and it's tough. So life is hard and business is really hard. And the less you can attach yourself to all that hard stuff and just kind of float above it and observe it all and see life as it really is, what you realize is they are all lessons
Mhm.
that just keep helping us evolve and grow and ascend. And I just love that word ascend, but it's growth. It's like what I realized my whole life is I'm a grower. I just want to learn. I've been through so much. I've gone through so much. I keep growing. I mean, I barely graduated high school with a 2.3 GPA. I did not go to college. I was a derelict. And so when I look at all of the learning and growing that has gone on, I'm just here to grow, but it's like we're all here to grow. And so if we could kind of rise up above that stuff and see life as it truly is, they're all lessons. They're all here to help us grow. We're all getting our own lessons. And so I hope you see the connection to what you said, because that, what I just said, is exactly what you said with a different set of words. But at the end of the day, there are no words to describe this thing because it's all just a knowing once your true self and your soul really sees it.
Let's take a short break for one of our great sponsors, TrackStat. It is a new type of software plugin for your EHR that combines patient communication, marketing, automation, and statistics with patient and employee tracking. Built by chiropractors for chiropractors, it shows your team what to focus on each day. See patient visit habits, missing information, unpaid bills, insurance collection visit average, and more. Great visibility of data so you can focus on filling your office with your best patients. When you can see what your staff and patients are doing or not doing and take action accordingly, your profits naturally grow. Take TrackStat for a test drive in your office with our free trial. Not a techie, no problem, we can help. To get started on your free trial, visit trackstat.org and watch the demo. That is trackstat.org. And one of the things I always appreciate about books is when they give you a lot of the deep stuff and contextual, sometimes theoretical, or the research or whatever, but then they transition to applicability and actual strategies that you can do. And that's what you did in this book. And we obviously won't be able to dive deep into all of the 10 disciplines, and people can pick up the book to do that. And what I loved about as you went through the 10, and I'm just gonna have you kind of share the 10 and kind of the overview of that one. But in the book, there's actual description of the benefits of this, the actions to take for it, and how you can really actually, implement it in your life. So let's start. What's the first discipline of the 10?
You bet. And as always, context. I'm going to bring you back to kind of a mini context here. But, I want to, as we go into this, as we come out of the three discoveries and we go into the 10 disciplines, there's this thought that always rings in my head as I think about your audience. I think about they're all sitting going, what does this have to do with business? What the conversation you and I just had for the last 30 minutes, like, what does this have to do with business? And my answer is always everything. I mean, if this is grasped, your business will be better. You will be a better entrepreneur. And I just want to share what my family, friends, coworkers have said about me as a result of this work, because this is my wish for all of you out there. And then we'll get into the 10 disciplines for how to do this. It's, I'm told that I'm more calm, I'm more patient, I'm more loving, open, freer, happier, more present. I receive love, I'm more inspiring, I'm less judgmental. And so my point is, when you are that, you are just a better driven entrepreneur for all of your people, and everything's better. And so with that, I just wanted to say that as we shift now to the 10 disciplines. And the context here is I always love to actually give all 10, just a really high level of all 10, just so
Mhm.
people got to get a sense of what we're about to talk about. And then I always just urge you, know your audience better than I do. I'd love it if you just pick the one, two, or three that really jump out at you that will help them the most. And then we can dive deep into those. But at a really high level, here are the 10 disciplines to maximize your energy, your impact, and your inner peace. Discipline number one is 10-year thinking. Discipline number 2 is take time off. Discipline number 3 is know thyself. Discipline number 4 is be still. Discipline number 5 is know your 100%. Discipline number 6 is say no, often. Discipline number 7 is don't do $25 an hour work, i.e., if you want to make six figures or more.
Mhm.
Number 8 is prepare every night. Number 9 is put everything in one place. And number 10 is be humble. And the little setup to this I want to share is just these are the 10 disciplines that I have lived by for more than 25 years in my life and have had an incredible impact. And people will ask, you seem so passionate, you have so much energy. Yeah, I'm not making that up. I didn't get lucky. I didn't get the lucky energy card. It's just I live by these 10 disciplines, and your energy will go through the roof. You will make a bigger impact, and you will experience the inner peace that we're talking about because they create a foundation and a platform where stuff comes up. And I'll leave it at that. And you tell me the 1, 2, or 3 that you want to talk about.
Yeah, let's do a few. The first one is the 10-year thinking, because this is something I really have gotten good at for myself.
Yes.
And I try to tell chiropractors, like, look, you're not thinking long term enough. You're not giving yourself enough runway, and so you're getting real squeezed, I feel like, from a compression of time standpoint. So, what are some of your thoughts on the
Yeah.
10-year thinking?
Yeah. So each time I teach a discipline, I always start with what we call a bold statement. Okay. And so the bold statement, what that is that is if you would just give me blind faith and just do this damn thing, you will get all of the benefit. But unfortunately, most human beings resist that. They need to be sold, they need to be taught, they need to be conveyed, they need to be swayed. So here's the bold statement, and then I'll share with you the benefits, and then hopefully that'll prompt some questions and a good conversation for you and I to have. So the bold statement around discipline number 1, 10-year thinking, is to simply shift your mind from short-term thinking to thinking in 10-year timeframes. Now, if you will do that and give me blind faith, here are the benefits you'll experience. Time will slow down, a peace will come over you, you will make better decisions, you will get there faster wherever there is, you will have more clarity, you will have more alignment with everything in your life. And the old saying, go slow to go fast, you'll literally slow down and actually go faster. It's the most incredible, complex, funny thing with those two competing things, but it's true.
And what I found was actually reflecting back on the previous 10 has been very helpful to then understand what you can get done in the next 10. And so I remember when I turned 40, I looked back at age 30, from 30 to 40. I was like, wow, I opened up my first practice actually at age 30. And it was amazing the growth I had.
Mm.
And then I look back, it's like, wow, from age 20, I was, getting drunk at college football games at Florida State University. And then by 30, I owned a practice, and it was like, wow. So then I said, okay, what's life going to be like at 50? And now I'm kind of halfway there, and I'm already gotten a lot further than I expected. And so I definitely found, looking back at the previous 10 on what you can get done, helps me set a big vision for the next 10. And it allows me to decompress a little bit and say, okay, I don't need to do it next year or tomorrow.
Yeah, it prompts a couple of things I would share, and I love what you just shared there. I've never really heard somebody say it so well, that the power of looking back to go forward. So well done there. There's an old quote that says, and it's a business quote that talks about we overestimate what we can get done in a year, but we greatly underestimate what we get done in 10 years. And so if you'll shift to this 10-year thinking, you will get so much more done. And the way I like to describe it is, think of it this way. Just make every decision that you make going forward a 10-year decision. If every decision you make, little things like what you're going to put in your mouth. In other words, what do you want to look like 10 years from now? Well, that piece of cake you're about to put in your mouth, that's probably not the best decision that will lead you to that 10-year. And so just make 10-year decisions. It's like when I created EOS to last 100 years. That was my goal. It has now lasted over 20 years. So what I know, though, is however long it lasts, let's pretend it only lasts 30 years or 40 or 50, it will have lasted longer because I created it with that 100-year thinking in mind, as opposed to just thinking about this year and what does the entrepreneurial world need this year. And so the point is just shift everything to long-term thinking, because frankly, 10 years is just my way of tricking you. And some people really struggle with 10 years. I'm trying to get you to 20-year, 30-year, 100-year thinking, ultimately to realizing there is no time and there's enough time to accomplish everything. But that's where it starts to get really heavy. Right now, just start thinking in 10-year timeframes and make every decision a 10-year decision.
Let's take a short break from today's episode to tell you about the best decision I've made in my clinic in the last 10 years, and that has been adding shockwave therapy to our clinic. The outcomes have been really impressive. Certain conditions we were struggling with in the past, we're now seeing results with the shockwave therapy for that. And second of all, the ROI has been really good. You know, when you make a big investment in something, you want to see a return, and we're seeing that return in clinical outcomes and in our investment, and that's been really nice to see. I chose Keenest Medical for 4 reasons. One is the technology is top notch. You have to have great technology. There's a lot out there that isn't quite up to snuff. The second thing is they have a really good clinical training. They have an exclusive partnership with Academy of Shockwave Excellence so that you can become clinically proficient in shockwave. You do need to get skilled at it. I think that's a big differentiator between practices that are getting great results and seeing the ROI is they have a great clinical aspect to that as well. So you want to get trained appropriately. Third is they have in-house service team for all of your technical support, which is key when you're investing in a machine like this. And then lastly, they have a very in-depth marketing and business support for you so that you can launch this into your practice effectively, that you can get that ROI on it, that you can get the clinical outcomes. And they also have really good financing options if you need that. So go to keenestmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, mention MCM podcast and receive a free shockwave in practice book with a purchase of a unit. So that's keenestmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, and mention MCM podcast. Love it. And then the next one I want to cover real quick is number 5, know your 100%. I think that's something that a lot of people do not get in touch with. And it's huge. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and this one's near and dear to my heart, and it freaks out most driven entrepreneurs, but it's a belief that I have, and I've been living this one for more than 30 years. But it's understanding that you have a perfect amount of time that is your perfect energy output. And so here's the bold statement. Again, if you would just do this, and that is decide on and commit to the perfect number of hours per week and weeks per year that you will deliver your craft to the world. And so for me, my entire entrepreneurial life, I have been a 55-hour a week guy, and I work 40 weeks per year, or at least the last 20 years for sure. Always kind of been a 55 to 60-hour a week guy. That has actually shifted for me in 2024. Just last year, my goal was to get down to 40 hours a week, which is really, excuse the French, edited out, but a mind fuck. I mean, it's literally makes my tectonic plates, my central nervous system did not like that because I have been conditioned for that. But I overcame the shift and I got there. So, but let's go back to the 55 hours a week, 40 weeks a year. That was what I did, for the last 20 to 30 years building EOS worldwide. But the point is that was my maximum energy output, and everyone has one. And what that means is one more hour per week, you will start to burn out. One less hour per week, you will start to get bored. And so here are the benefits, and let's see what this prompts for you. And so the benefits of doing this is that your boundaries will be clear. You will make a bigger impact. You will have more fun. You will increase your income. You will maximize your energy output. You will vibrate higher as a human being. You will get back your most valuable asset, which is your time. Because think about this, one of the disciplines is don't do $25 an hour work, but once you know you're 100% and that is your work container, all of a sudden when the job gets bigger than that, there's your opportunity. There's the boundary that says, oh, I don't work this much. You need to delegate something. And rule of thumb, delegate a $25 an hour, $50 an hour. work that you shouldn't be doing, low energy work, low income work. Just keep delegating, 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 and stay within that. And you'll continue to delegate and elevate, as we talk about and teach in EOS and my book Traction.
Yeah, I love that, and that's what was kind of the connection I was making was like, if you really know you're 100%, it then allows you the boundary to know what you need to delegate to people. And then again, I like how sometimes it's elevating, and it's not like it's a bad thing to be doing. Someone's really skilled at that, but you're not, and I think that really helps clear that. And a lot of chiropractors struggle with the delegation side of things,
Yeah.
and they put too much on their plate, and so they actually know they're 100%. They can know what their plate can handle. Then they can start to look at the things to delegate, which is great.
Yeah, let me give you a great example. As we're sitting here, you and I doing this podcast, there's a perfect example staring at us. So again, if your audience is tracking with us, once you know that 100%, you're never gonna you're never gonna go beyond that. And so when something comes, all these beautiful opportunities to do more come, you say, "Oh, here's my boundary. I'm gonna now delegate that." And then what happens is you start then delegating the low energy, low income stuff, doing more of the high energy, high income stuff. So now the quality of work you're doing is much higher quality and pays you more. And so just like we're sitting here doing a podcast right now, I could do 200 podcasts this year, and I'm not doing that. Most I did in a year was 100, and I'll never do that again. But I'll probably do 10 podcasts this year. Okay. So I just handpick, and that's all I have the capacity for. There's 190 that I could do. I have to say no to all those. And when I choose a podcast, I have to choose the podcast that's going to make the biggest impact. And so kudos to you, Kevin, for building such a successful podcast. But that's an example of, okay, so now here's my work container. I can only do 10, let's pretend 20 podcasts, whatever the number is, that's it. So I have to say no to every single other one. And then I delegate that to my co-author or other people that can do them, but I'm not going to do it because it's not high impact. And so that's just one great example where you out there have to get good at making tough decisions and saying no if it's not high energy, high impact within your work container. And what most driven entrepreneurs is they just keep saying yes, 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 yes to everything. They're working 70, 80 hours a week, killing themselves. So I could go do the other 190 podcasts. But unfortunately, I'd be working, same thing, 70 hours a week. I'd have to start working 41 hours a week. And I also take time off. And that's one of the disciplines which helps restore your energy to be great inside that work container. Hopefully
And
that all
that's what
makes
I
sense.
really appreciate about the 10 disciplines was they feed and they connect to each other. And it's not, it's like if you just did one of them, it'd be amazing. But then once you do one, it leads to the next and it leads to the next. And when you really get this strategy down, you now have that framework to produce at a high level, not, I think too many entrepreneurs get paralyzed when they get overwhelmed, and that's a problem, or burned out one way or the other. And these have been great. And I just highly recommend people get the book, go through each one of those tens and actually apply them. And that's what I loved again about the book was there's actionable steps you can do to apply them. But if someone wants to get really deeper into this, obviously let us know where they can get the book. But what are some other ways they can reach out and even dive further into some of these learnings?
Yeah, great. I appreciate that. And I invite you all on this journey. And so I'll start by saying I love what you said there because the 10 disciplines, they all stand on their own. You could implement one in your life and get benefit, but there's a synergistic effect when you implement all 10 in your life. So I urge you to implement all 10. And the book absolutely is a how to manual for doing that. All content I create is very practical, very how to. So I'd urge you to get the book. You can get it at any major retailer. You can find it through our website, the10disciplines.com, and that will take you there. On that website, there are a few things to offer you. What I would urge and start with is something we call the true self assessment. Takes just a few minutes to fill out, but the result you're going to get, it's going to show you how free your true self really is. It's going to be a beautiful starting point for you. And so please take the true self assessment. And then if you want to go much deeper, you can certainly do this all on your own using the book, but we offer a self study if you want some help in implementing these 10 disciplines in your life. We offer group coaching if you want that. And we also have a mastermind if you really want to start to go deep. We call it the True Self Mastermind because that's when we're really going deep into those 3 discoveries. And so those would be the resources. You can also download a free chapter of the book from the website if you just want to get a taste of like the first 27 pages and see if that pulls you in. So there's a free option for you to put your toe in the water. But those are all the wonderful places to start to embed these 10 disciplines in your life.
I love it. And we'll put all that in the show notes and get that out to everybody as well. And I know that I've been talking with Rob about getting involved in some of that. So I'm excited as
Awesome.
well. And I really appreciate your time today, Gino.
Yeah, it was a blast, Kevin. So well done, brother. Great questions and great stories on your end. So hopefully we made a huge impact today.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.